Welcome back, everyone. In the last video, I issued it a challenge to try and create this handle submit method yourself. Hopefully it worked out and you now are able to sign up users using email and password. It's really cool if you did. If not, let's do this together. No worries at all. So here, what we know is that for signing up a user, the first step we need to confirm is whether or not their passwords match. So here, I want to say that if password does not equal confirm password, then what I want to do is I want to alert them that your passwords do not match. And then I just want to exit because I don't want to proceed any further. I've already told them they need to now update their passwords. There's actually another way that you can add additional checks to this password and confirm password by adding additional length checks inside of the input fields themselves. I'm going to link for you the input documentation for this HTML element. So if you wanted to add more functionality yourself, such as adding requirements of length and such, you can do that yourself. I'm not going to add any of that just because for me, this is enough for me to get the idea of what I'm trying to build with this form. And the other thing I want to do now is once I've made sure that passwords and confirm password match, I need to continue and actually attempt to create this user. So as we did before, we're going to try and catch, because when we try and call our Firebase server, we might fail. And if we fail, we want to be able to catch that error. Here inside of the try, what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure to call this method that we just created, which is create auth user with email and password. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it the email value and the password value. These are the two values that we've destructured off from our form fields. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I know what it is that this response is first before I start working with anything else. So in this particular case, let's say we get an error as well. Let's just catch the error and let's just console.error the error. We can also console log the error. Maybe that's a little bit more clear for us right now. And we can just say user created encountered an error, or user creation. Let's be more grammatically correct. User creation encountered an error, and we'll log the error. And this is enough for us to at least get started and see what's happening. So let's pass our handle submit into our onSubmit handler here. And now let's save this. And let's go back to our application. And let's actually try it out. So here I'm going to say that my display name is Mike, my email is mike@gmail, and my password is 1234 1234 1234 1234. So I know I'm logging this. Typically you don't want to do this, but I'm just logging it for our own benefit right now. And if I hit sign up, let's see what happens. We get back a user credential, and inside we see we get a user object. And here we get an access token. We didn't pass a display name because we have not actually done this inside of our code. So this is a very key point that I want you to notice. The display name here is not coming back to us inside of this user auth. But how could it? We just created this user. So of course there's no display name. But the reason why this user object is the same is because Firebase is making sure that across all of its different ways that you can authenticate, you're expecting the same shape. Whether or not there's a value or not, that's entirely up to the authentication method itself. The reason why for Google there's a display name is because in Google, when you set up your user, you have to tell Google what your name is. In our particular case, we did not do that in the actual authentication method. We did it in our form, but we don't actually do it in our authentication method. And there's no real need to. In this particular case, what we're going to do though is we're going to use this and store it inside of our database instead. So this is an important distinction, is that now display name is not coming from this user object. Display name is going to be coming from our sign up form instead. So how are we going to do this? So here, let's go back into our application. As we saw, we are getting back this user. which is good because we want that user. But what we're going to do with this user is we are now going to have to pass this value that we have, which is the email and password confirmation, into the actual final document that we're trying to generate. But let's look at this method right now. Our method infers from this user auth the display name, the email, and the created at. These we're just assuming comes off of that user object because it did when we signed up before. Here, we're not going to be able to do that anymore. So in order for us to extend this functionality, we may sometimes get this value, we may sometimes not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that, okay, in the cases where there's not, let's say we get some additional information. And this additional information, I'm just going to say is an object. And what I'll do is I will spread this object in at the end after all of these fields have been filled from any previous variable setting that we've done. So if display name exists on user auth, then it will get spread through. And we're not going to pass any additional information, meaning that this will probably by default be just an empty object, for example. But let's say in our current example, display name, there's no value here. It was null as we saw. So what's going to happen is display name is going to get set to null. But then because what we're going to do is we are going to add the additional information ourselves. Then what'll happen is that this is instead going to be passed in like this, where we will have a string ourselves. So it'll be Mike, for example. And then this is going to overwrite that null value so that we do actually have a final display name inside of our user document. And now what we can do is we can just say that after we get back this user auth object, I want to now call in that method that generates this create user auth. So I'm going to say, what is the method name again? Create user document from auth. And down here, after we get back, I'm going to await create document from auth. I'm going to pass it the user auth, but I'm also going to pass it this object with the display name value that we have expected them to fill out inside of their form. And then after this, if it's succeeded, we'll figure out what to do to confirm to them that they've successfully signed up. But for now, this is enough for our form field. The only other thing we need to do is make sure that we clear out the signup field. But before we do that, let's just make sure this is working. Let's take this one step at a time. So here I have all the same code in. And now I'm going to refresh. And let's just keep typing mike@gmail.com, 1234, 1234, 1234, 1234. And if we hit sign up now, oh, we see we get an error. We see that we get the error, Firebase error auth email already in use. So this is actually very helpful because earlier when we logged out the sign up for the first time, it actually already created a user for us for this email. And Firebase won't allow you to make the same email for multiple users. So this is really great for us because now what we can do is we can capture this error and we can alert to the user even more specificity on why the error failed. So here, what we can do is we can actually leverage the error code. And this particular error code was the auth email already in use error code. So we can say if error code is equal to this, then what we can do is we can console, or actually let's alert to them instead that they failed because they have the same email. Cannot create user email already in use. And now if we save this and we can do else, console log this error. And now if we clear out the console and we sign up again, we see that we get the proper alert. So this is great. we've added more functionality in now. And there's more ways that we can make this look prettier, but we'll talk about that after. For now, what we want to do is we want to properly create this user though. So what we can do is we can delete this user from our authentication. And if we go back now and we try this sign up again, what will happen is now if we come back in here, let's refresh. We didn't get the error. We see that we have this user, and inside of our Firestore database, we see that we have our new user. Great, so everything is working as expected. The only last thing we need to do is after we successfully actually fire off this successful creation, we want to clear out these fields. And that we can just do by creating another method called reset form fields, which is just going to be a function that calls set form fields with our default form fields, which are the empty states. And then let's just append this to the end of after we've successfully created the user document from the auth. And now if we save this, in order to properly do this, we'll have to delete the user again. So here, let me just go in here. Let me delete both these users. So I'm going to delete both the document as well as the authentication because we're going to have to go through this step again. In fact, I could have just created another user. I don't even know why I'm doing this. This is really just a bit of hindsight in my end. But let's refresh. And let's just make sure that everything works. Mike at gmail.com. 1234, 1234, 1234, 1234. Hit the sign up. We see that our field successfully cleared out, which means that we probably successfully created our user. So if we refresh, we see our user, and inside of our database, we also see that we've generated the user successfully. So everything here is working. So our code is working as we expect. We've now properly integrated in sign up using this email password. So now that we have this, let's finish styling up our sign up. And then what we can do is we can figure out whether or not we can successfully sign in with this newly authenticated email password user. So I'll see you in the next video.